Hi, and welcome to another episode of Kasper On BI. Last one of the year. I know I didn't do that many this year, unfortunately. I just didn't get around to do so. I really want to thank everyone who came up to me at conferences and say that they enjoy the podcast and listening to it. And it really gives me strength to really make sure that I spend time, do more recordings. I already have some interesting topics lined up. In the beginning of the year, we're going to talk to Yitzhak, and Yitzhak is the VP of RTA, like real-time analytics. This is a really exciting area for Fabric. So I'm really looking forward to diving in more. I have a few others planned for the next year, so I'm pretty excited about this. So what are we going to talk about today? So I thought this year I'll do a little bit of recap. I did the things the other years too. What are we seeing? Where are we? What piqued my interest this year? What are some things that surprised me around Fabric and the whole analytics space? So let's go. I think the most interesting thing that I've been seeing, and for those of you who don't know, I work in the customer advisory team, meaning we work with the biggest customers in the world to help them onboard Fabric. And help them understand Fabric and help them understand like how this is how things work. And we're seeing a lot of the time of the engagements that we are doing with customers is about education. Like, where are we? Because the story really resonates with a lot of people in the organization. Like, everyone has seen the vision, the presentation that Arun does at the keynotes. Like, this really resonates with a lot of organizations because we are evolving pretty rapidly into a more data. Everyone wants to be more data driven. Everyone wants to make more decisions based on data. And while we learned SQL in school, the new generations learns Python. Where we learned Excel, they are very familiar with Python. They're very familiar with notebooks. They're very familiar in this more analytical mindset where they really want to question the data. So that is really interesting, and they want to do it in a few ways, right? First, Python, all of these things. But second, and I think this is really interesting too, and I've recently also started to really try to engage myself more with Copilot, like really starting to ask questions. And I think that's really interesting. So you'll see, like every student today, like they have ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever it is open. They're working with it. They're asking it questions. They're using it to their advantage. And you can expect them to come into your organization in a few years and they want to do the same. So we need to be ready for it, right? I think that's the main message, and that is landing. And a lot of CIOs and a lot of top of the organizations see this is something as they need to resolve. Now, this is where things get tricky because, hey, we've been doing things a certain way in a long time, right? So the CIO goes to the CTO and it goes to the IT team and says, hey, let's take a look at Fabric. And then, okay, well, they didn't give them more things to talk about. Like say, okay, just look at Fabric. And then they will look at Fabric and they try to look into it the same way as they've always has done. This is a data platform, just like we've always built it. But Fabric is really different. And because it's a really SaaSified version of where we are in the cloud, right? It's SaaSified version. It's easy to get started. It's easy to get access to data. So this is really the struggle. And for those of you who remember the good old days with Power BI, I was in the CAT team when Power BI really started to take off in 2016. And we had the same problems there. IT teams begging us to give them opportunities and options to turn off Power BI because business units wanted to do more with data. They installed Power BI Desktop, they started going, but IT said, whoa, I'm the one building the models, I'm the one building the reports, right? And in the end, it was self-service users building the reports. Now, I'm not saying this is full self-service in Fabric for every business user known to man. I don't think that is a real thing that we should think about. But it's an easier way for people inside of the organization to be able to get access to data. So I think it's enterprises, it is people in the organization that know to work with data, IT, data professionals, they can craft the data. They can create lakehouses. They can create warehouses for people in the organization to do more with the data, to get access to the data. I don't think we're just going to give everyone access to the raw layer in the warehouse and that's it. We don't have to do anything else. No, that's really definitely not. It is IT team or the data platform team. It's also interesting that we see a lot of times now that data platform teams are shifting into a business function instead of an IT function, which is interesting to see. But it's them making sure that the people in the organization have access to the data. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot. And while they're doing that, they're trying to figure out this new platform, like Fabric, right? This new platform. How does it work? It's a PaaS to SaaS transition. It's more accessible to data. How do I govern it? How do I secure it? And there are so many things in the platform that a lot of people don't even understand or know that it's there or what it can gain to their advantage. Every session, and for those of you who see me at conferences, I talk a lot about security. And not that because it's my most favorite topic. I would love to start talking about DAX again, but I really see an area where we really need to talk more about security. We as data people need to understand security better. I need to understand it more because this is the number one concern for CFO, CIO, whatever it is, right? How does data get exfiltrated? How does data leave the organization? How do we make mistakes? And really think about it because we are too focused on DAX and modeling a lot of times and not thinking the whole security story through. And it's difficult, I must admit. But for example, one of the features that we have in Fabric, just as like we have in Power BI, is MIP labeling. And MIP labeling is now also being brought to a lot of artifacts in Fabric. And it's really can add this additional layer of security on top of your data. Please go and look for it and see the amazing functionalities and features that it has. The example I always give, if you've seen my security sessions, you will know about it. One of the best examples, I have a Power BI desktop file, okay? And I go to work and I'm going on the metro / tube or in the cab and I put it on my USB stick and I forgot it. Or I put it on my box service online and I just put it there and okay, someone cracks my password for box because I didn't turn on two-factor authentication and I didn't do all the things that I should be doing. But I didn't do it. Someone gets a hold of that file, they can see all the data that's in there, right? That's pretty straightforward and simple. But it's not as straightforward and simple if you have MIP labeling. Because what MIP labeling allows you to do is, hey, first of all, it makes people in your organization aware that they're working with data. Like for example, inside Microsoft, we have a mandatory label. And you can configure this yourself too, a mandatory label. And this mandatory label immediately gives you the idea, hey, I'm working with data. What type of data is this? How secure do I need to be with this? And I even have this when I work on presentations, okay, because I have to do this labeling, it makes me think, okay, what happens if this data or this PowerPoint presentation goes outside of the company? It probably wouldn't be good. Okay, so let's mark it highly confidential. And the moment I do that, no one outside of my organization can open this file anymore. Even if you actually have the physical file in hands, you can't open it. It doesn't work. So this additional layer of security, and it's not just security, right? Because a lot of the times the whole security is also awareness. With adding MIP labeling to your environment, you make people think about what they can do and how do I need to work with this data? Do I need to be secure with this data? And also, I think if you want more people to do more with data in the organization, you have to put the onus on the users. So in this way, you make them think about it. And you put this additional layer of security. And then there's all these things on top of the MIP labeling that it comes as part of MIP. For example, you can create a policy that says, hey, if someone emails a highly confidential file to 500 people in the organization or outside of the organization, I want to get a warning. So there's so many things that you can see. And as an admin, you can actually steer on this too, right? You can see there's a portal that says how many MIP labels do we have in the organization, how many are classified, how many are not classified, and so forth. And the second thing that is also recently released, which is really cool too, is data loss prevention policies, so DLP policies. And with these policies, for example, you can create a policy that says, hey, if someone uploads credit card information to my OneLake, I want to have a discussion with them. I want to understand if they know what they're doing. Like, I'm not against them uploading particular data to OneLake, but at least they need to start thinking about, hey, if you're uploading this type of data to OneLake, let's have a discussion. So you can create a policy that detects certain types of data being uploaded to OneLake. Same thing uploaded to Power BI. As soon as that happens, you get a message, an email comes in and says, hey guys, someone just uploaded credit card information. And maybe you need to have a little discussion with this person, because let's make sure that they understand what they're doing. So there are so many features like this that is that nobody knows about, right? And again, if we want to make this data-driven environment, we need to start thinking about these things. And so this is a lot of the conversations we're having with customers. They really like these things, but it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of explaining to understand that. And then the other thing that I really, really see a lot of people are very excited about is RTA. Because first of all, there's a lot of people really starting now by actually doing way more with real-time data. And the RTA functionality in Fabric makes it so easy to just get started. You don't have to do anything complicated or difficult. You just hook into the data that is landing inside of your OneLake or an event stream that you have already running or whatever it is, and you can start gaining insights immediately. You can start querying it with KQL. You can do immediate insights on top of the data activator, which is really amazing. So it's really like a lot of people are looking at Fabric. Okay, this is our first starting point in Fabric because, like, let's be real, if you already have a data platform somewhere else, it's not that straightforward and easy to just switch, right? Or to go somewhere else. So you start with some projects and you start with some things and then you find the value in it and then you'll get going. Like the biggest value right now, what a lot of people are seeing is because they don't have anything else. This is something that's really missing in the market, especially in a easy way, as this has been designed in RTA. So we see a lot of people starting to start with Fabric with RTA. And this is really exciting. And again, this is an area that I don't know that much about, but it's definitely an area that I'm also want to learn. And that's why I've also invited Yitzhak to come with us next month to really learn from him more about RTA. What is it? What's the value prop? How can I use it? And how the barrier to entry is much lower. All right, and then I think the other thing that I really wanted to say is, and we've all felt this, right? When Fabric came out, there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed. There's lots of small things. There's lots of little annoyances, and one by one, like we're just 1 year old, right? One by one, this is getting much better, and I'm really excited about that. It just makes things so easy and so flexible to get going and get started. So I'm really excited about that. Now, let's talk about some of the cool new things that have been released. Probably the biggest and the most interesting feature is SQL Databases coming to Fabric. I think that gained a lot of attention at Ignite. And it was probably the most surprising addition to Fabric this year, right? Now you can build a full-fledged SQL database. Like, this is my background. This is where I started, right? I was a developer and I used SQL Server 6.5 back in the day to build my first databases. So this is like coming home. And there are so many cool use cases for it. And it's so easy to get started, right? You just click on the button and you're inside of Fabric and you have a SQL database, a full-blown SQL database. So you want to build a little app, 5 seconds later, you have a SQL database. So it's really easy to get going in a SaaS-fied way. And of course, for us, there are a lot of interesting scenarios there too. And we'll talk about some of them a little bit later on too. Also, the coolest thing that is there, just like for warehouses today, is all the data automatically is landing in the lake. So when you do OLTP into your system, it automatically also lands data into the lake. So now you can do more with it. Like you want to do AI on top of it. You want to do all kinds of using machine learning. You want to do things on top of it that are not really built to connect directly to a SQL OLTP system with SQL queries. Well, the files are in Parquet sitting in the lake, right? Just get going. So I think I think that opens up a lot of interesting use cases and scenarios. So SQL Databases is definitely interesting. A lot of use cases on it. We just announced preview, so there's probably a lot more interesting things to come. But this is really interesting. And so let's think about what in my mind were the best things that were released this year. And there's two ones that are really interesting to me and that has fixed some interesting problems. And the first one is PBIP, right? The ability to take a Power BI desktop file and check it into source control, see the code, make changes to it, and hydrate it back into a Power BI desktop file. That is really cool. And we've been waiting on this forever. Like when I joined in 2010, we already wanted to do some of these things. Like we really wanted to have a scriptable version of the model. And now we have it and it's there. And this solves so many problems and it's so really cool. And really like Rui and the team who built and designed these features, they really did an amazing job on it. And also thanks to the community. So PBIP, saving the Power BI desktop file and frankly, the whole Git integration and all of these things that we've really never used in the BI world. Like even when a long time ago, when I was a BI developer on multidimensional cubes, like, yeah, you could work with multiple people on one project, but it was a massive hassle. It was not great. Now with the new Git integration and working in the service, it's really cool. It's some really amazing things that you can do. And really easily starting templatizing stuff. So I think that's really cool. And the other one that I'm really excited about is mirroring. Like, okay, it's a really easy way for you to get more out of your data. Okay, you have some data sitting somewhere. Let's mirror it into Fabric. The storage of the data is free inside of Fabric. So you have and more data sources are coming. And the really cool thing that was announced at Ignite is the open framework, open mirroring. So it's an open framework. So Mark Price-Mayher from my team, he immediately wrote mirroring for Excel files, for example. And so, of course, this is a little bit of a joke, but maybe it's also not so much of a joke, right? Because a lot of people use Excel files, right, as their data source. Even though everyone says we shouldn't do it, I think the number one data source for Power BI is probably Excel files, right? So the things that people can do are limitless. Like we release a feature and immediately you see all these amazing cool things that are starting to happen in this area. And what's kind of related to it, like so mirroring allows you to get data from everywhere and it just lands directly in the lake. Then you can start doing things on top of it. You can use data flows, you can use Spark, you can use whatever it is to massage your data and put it into a gold layer and put analysis service on top. Now, that brings me to another really cool feature that probably most of you who are listening to this have seen or heard about, and that is semantic links labs, right? Michael in my team, he built this tool from scratch. And you're probably all familiar with Michael Kowalski and the amazing stuff he built. But with semantic links labs, when I talk to customers about this, like the things that you can do are limitless. So let me give you an example. With semantic links labs, you can run a notebook that connects to your entire estate. It includes going all the way into the tabular object model. So you can actually talk to tables, you can talk to measures, you can add measures, you can remove them. If you can inspect them, you can iterate over everything inside of your organization. So you can take actions, you can do migrations, you can do it's limitless, right? And you can connect to lake houses, you can connect to anything that has an API is now runnable within Fabric itself. So you don't have to use external tools. You don't have to do anything. You just run it inside of your organization, inside of a notebook, and you get going. And best practice analyzers, like, okay, I'm going to write a tool, and like, as an organization, we have a rule. You need to have a certain naming format for your reports. You can check it. You can write some code. You can go in and say, hey, guys, you didn't follow the naming convention. Let's make a change. Or best practices. Like we hear a lot of people saying, okay, yeah, sometimes my business users, they don't care necessarily so much about the data model, or we don't know if my business users actually need help designing their models and optimizing them. And so imagine that you are running you want to do best practices. You don't know who in your organization needs help developing and designing their data models. Imagine the following, you write some code, it scans over all these semantic models running in the service, and you detect they're not following best practices. This is happening and that is going on in the model. So, hey, we'll send a notification to that person saying, hey, here's some training material for you to follow. It's pretty straightforward and simple, but as a Center of Excellence team, that's going to help you a lot. And it's pretty straightforward to write this code. Like you just write some Python. So Semantic Links Lab, I'll put all the links of the things that I talk about in the description below. But that is really cool. Now, the most interesting feature, I think, that we've shipped, and again, it kind of goes back, we already kind of talked about this, but it's the feature that I don't think anyone knows. And this is, I think, is a little bit of a problem. Like DLP for OneLake is amazing. Like, okay, we're allowing people to upload data into OneLake. Like, let's put some security in there, right? Let's put some governance in there. Let's make sure when people upload credit card information or customer information or whatever it is, they follow the guidelines. So let's have a discussion with them, right? We don't want to block anyone from doing things. If they have access to Fabric and if they have access to be able to create a lakehouse, like a developer goes in and maybe he doesn't think about the fact that he's uploading, like he's just uploading big files and he didn't even think about there's credit card information in it. But when that actually goes out and there's an accident or something, and there might be trouble, right? You need to protect your own organization. So the DLP policies can run on your OneLake. It can check for these credit card informations to be part of it. And you immediately can start a discussion with these people. Like, I really think this is an area that we, as a data community, really need to spend more time on it. And I know a lot of you already been talking to me about like, oh, here's Kasper and he's doing his security presentation. But every time I do this security presentation, people come up to me afterwards and say, I never thought about this. And it makes a ton of sense because we're data people. We write DAX, we do data modeling, we think about COT, and we think about third norm, and we think about all these things that we care about. But security, we cannot afford it to be an afterthought. And I think that's really an interesting mind shift that we all have to go through. And frankly, I think we need to go through as an industry. We really have to keep that on top of our minds because, like, you've all seen these hacking attempts, and like with more data, with more people doing stuff, with more bad actors out there, it is really important to protect your own company. And so we all have to think about this. All right, I'll get off the soapbox and keep on talking because I really want to cover two of my biggest surprises for Fabric this year too. One is actually GraphQL. It's really interesting. And so I'm a developer, like my background was .NET code writing and ASP before that. So I know how difficult it is to write code that can interact with databases and things like this. With GraphQL, it is so easy. You can just say, hey, I want to be able to call this code. There is a little JSON script. It automatically generates. You don't have to do anything. It says, okay, this is what I want to expose. Generate a GraphQL API for me, and you're good to go. You can immediately start talking to your data through your application. It's really exciting and it's really cool. I don't know exactly what I would use it for if I don't write any codes, except there's this new functionality that was announced at Ignite, which also blew my mind. And that's the new translatable apps, right? Everyone is probably going to be excited about it. I don't know actually when the preview is going to start, when we can actually start playing with it. I haven't played with it either. But that is really cool. Having the ability to directly inside of your Power BI report, talk to the data and make changes. Like, people have been asking for this for a long time, right? Just like in analysis services, multidimensional, we want some write back. But for those of you who were around in those days, write back in multidimensional was a nightmare. It was incredibly hard to implement, and it never really worked that well. But this is a whole different ballgame, because now we can call store procedures. Those GraphQL functions that I just talked about, you can call them directly from the Power BI API. So it's not talking to the actual internal data set. It's talking to the database that is sitting behind it. And the database, again, takes a SQL database, so it talks to a SQL database that's sitting behind it. That SQL database immediately pulls down the files as files in the lake, and then immediately the Power BI report on Direct Lake on top of it gets refreshed, and so you can make interaction with data. You can update individual fields, you can update swaths of fields, like, hey, I want to make sure that someone from this zip code, all my customers from this zip code, they get tagged a certain way so people in the field will know that they have to go talk to them and there's an upsell opportunity for them, or something like this. Like, this is really mind-blowing, and I can't wait to see what everyone is going to do with it. Like, I am always blown away with the ingenuity of what people are doing with building on top of the platform that Fabric is. Or, I mean, in general, this has always been the case. Like, people build DAX Studio, 30-pack Analyzer. There are so many amazing, cool tools out there that people are building. I don't know if you've seen it, but this new Visual Studio integration, Visual Studio Code integration for Fabric that Gerhard wrote is mind-blowing, if you ask me. I'll put the links in the description below, but like, there are so many cool things that are possible. And I mentioned it all the way at the beginning, right? More and more APIs are starting to open up. So now we can write more with code, which is what a lot of our developer audience obviously wants. So Gerhard wrote this code where you can have Fabric environments connected in Visual Studio Code. You can make updates immediately in Visual Studio Code. You can check it in. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. I'll put the link in the description below. It's a really amazing piece of software. All right, and I mean, that's it. There was a lot to talk about. I really hope I'll do this more often. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope everyone has had a great year. I hope everyone takes some time to relax. I know I'm going to really need it. I'm going to just sit down for 2 weeks and not do anything except cook and eat and relax. And I'll see you all in the new year. Happy holidays. And I'll talk to you next time. All right, bye.